Welcome to Mentor Time today, everybody. We're excited to be here because today we're going to talk about ChatGPT, its uses and its possibilities. What Sue knows so far, what I've been trying to keep up with. So here are the topic areas. We're going to talk about the fact that it's not the first, but it is a huge leap forward. Then I'm going to quickly try to go over what's been learned and what guidance is out there and where are we right now. And this is not exhaustive, it's illustrative. And then finally, as always happens, I end up with what should you do and what am I helping you see a way forward. So we will get started with the huge leap forward. But to do that, let's go back to last spring and summer. At least in the podcasts I was listening to, on Twitter, things I was reading were all about DALL-E. You have to sign up. And I signed up to get an account. It was an AI system to take images across the internet, combine them, and give you interesting new ways of looking at art. And I think mine took 3.5 or 4 months. I asked it the other day, show me a data visualization project under construction. I haven't used it for a few months, partly because exactly the kinds of pictures I wanted it to create, show me a diverse group of people networking, which is one of the last ones I did a few months ago. Unfortunately, the fingers and the arms always come out skewed, funny. I don't know if you can tell the construction guy, his right hand has 2 fingers and his left hand looks like it's all webbed together. Some people have had better luck with longer prompts, but they do things like show me a purple kitten sitting on the lap of a podcaster. And that's, again, it's in the eye of the beholder. But we saw this. It was a big, shiny thing. Everybody was talking about it. And then it dropped off the map. I just went to the main screen of ChatGPT. I've had an account for a while on Friday or Saturday, and I noticed that their new landing page is a beautiful splash page now. It's gorgeous. It still gets you to the same place, that bottom left, try ChatGPT. I have an account, and this is what it looks like. It's very spare. It will track your conversations, as you can see on the left. My last one was on something I'm going to show you now. And it's giving you some prompts. That little teeny dialog box at the bottom down here actually can hold a lot of stuff. And I'll talk about some of the uses I've heard people talk about. I don't have examples of them, but I'll let you know. But again, going back to what we know, AI-mediated writing alone has been around for quite a while. In fact, I had to limit this to get the kinds of things I was looking for just, I think, the last year or 2 years. There was an article from 2014. There's a lot of refereed journal articles in the electronics, electrical engineering, AI. My husband, who's the electrical engineer, always likes to tell me what's AI and what's just good Google searching, but that's his definition of it, I think. A couple of weeks ago, though, the world of tech people and on the several of the podcasts I listen to regularly were rocked when CNET actually admitted that for quite a long time, they have been publishing what they say are basic informational articles, totally AI written. And the podcast, some of them started taking them apart and are they good or aren't they? But we all know the way of the world is this is moving forward fast. So why did ChatGPT suddenly, I think it was late November, early December, make a huge splash? Why was it not just our next shiny thing, but really challenged us? Because we did actually see a huge leap forward. There was much more natural language use in the writing that you'll see come up. There was much more ability to refine it to the way you want. And in fact, one of the TLDR, too long didn't read, an old tech term about articles, of today is knowing how to write a prompt will be more and more important. In my world of being a program evaluator, you have to know how to write a good survey question. If you're trying to build a bridge, you have to know exactly what kind of bridge and how long and what are the soil conditions. So it's not something that you can just put in a few words and get back brilliance. So we've been in AI. I will remind you, we use AI-mediated things like Alexa, Siri. Siri's been around a long time. I can't remember the name of the Bing one. Oh, Cortana. But let's see about some of what we're seeing it being used for. Here was an article from about a week or so ago from a LinkedIn expert purely about how to use it in terms of our professional careers, which is why I wanted to start with this. And he makes a lot of good points. It's a much longer blog than this. And so you'll see there's almost a whole page of references today just for some easy, quick follow-up. But he says it's named chat for a reason. That's in the middle of the top left and top right. You have to work with it with clear instructions. So it reminds me of the old days of computing, garbage in, garbage out. He did end by talking about other tools to experiment with, and I thought were helpful, and that's why I wanted to show it to you. But also he points out, and what we're seeing more and more is how and in what way, including ChatGPT, are we going to know if ChatGPT has written it or humans have written it? And in fact, ChatGPT added that about 3 weeks ago, I think, that you can now, there's a way to verify that it's not all ChatGPT. But we're still hearing everybody talking about AI is coming for your job. I couldn't find that in any of the free pictures, and this was on Product Hunt, a newsletter I get every day about interesting tech products. And it came out, I think, Friday or Saturday, and I thought, oh, I have to show this because this is how it's going to go forward, as it already has been. As we took on computers, we took on searching, we were able to get more information free of charge and put together things across the internet, as all of us on this call or watching the recording have been doing in our careers for years, decades. It's going to be hand in hand. It's another tool. Most of what we use in tech are tools. They can't do our work for us. ChatGPT sometimes gets very busy, so I wanted to record a prompt and show you what it looks like in real time, because I was on it early one morning, Saturday morning, and I thought, oh, I can just do a screen record of this and then you'll be able to see it. So I said, give me an outline for a 30-minute presentation, i.e. mentor time, on the positive and negative aspects of ChatGPT with a focus on how global professionals can use it effectively. And of course, I really wanted the global professionals part. So we're going to see a movie now of the screen. And this is real time. I was recording it. So it took about 20 seconds, I believe, for the whole screen to fill with all of that. And I'm sure you've already noticed that is a really generic outline. There are interesting things. I thought under 2 and 3, it at least gives some specific examples, because it's not good on examples. And I'll show you one instance of that. What it doesn't have the ability to take into account is, when I said global professionals, it didn't ask me, what do you mean? It just made assumptions. And in fact, we could retitle that using ChatGPT effectively for tech personnel, for nursing home personnel. It would all be the same recommendations, for example. So just wanted you to see that that's how it looks when you use it. And everybody and their brother seems to have an example of it. Oh, there we go again. Let's talk about what's been learned so far, guidance developed, not exhaustive, only illustrative. Dr. Mushtaq Bilal posted this on Twitter the other day. I use Thread Reader app to unroll it, meaning you can get it more as a text document on a browser. He had several different instances he asked ChatGPT to do, and I pulled this one out as drafting a personal statement for scholarship or grad school. And he made the topic a woman who's from a small town in Pakistan. And what he said after the discussion that you see here, excuse me, I enlarged the part of it I thought was interesting. It tugs at the heartstrings when you start reading it. A working class woman, always been driven to understand the world, blah, blah, blah. Then what happens is you have text and you have to decide how you're going to make it fit for you. It's a very interesting thread. It says academics, but it probably offers prompts for all of us in our career that we might want to pursue. And then 3 days ago, Josh Cavalier, who's a learning architect, basically he's an instructional design expert, has already written up and this was on LinkedIn, so you can see in the top, it looks like a LinkedIn slider attachment, 17 slides. He's already written up theories and models for instructional designers of how to use it in learning situations, because what trainers, instructional designers do is figure out how to best deliver training effectively for the type of work needed and the type of remediation or skill improvement we need. And what I put in yellow is what everybody's saying more and more now. The design of the prompts have to be structured in a manner to produce a correct result. And then 8 days ago, now a couple of days ago, I found this on gender bias in what's being written. My first remark to myself was, of course there is. It's using web-based data. It's programmed by a lot of men. We already know where all the biases are, and I don't mean to implicate one gender more than another, but we've been trying to undo the biases from many years of coding with assumptions built in that people weren't even aware they were coding in. This was a blog on Textio that actually I found out through Fast Company about it. So I went directly to the site on Textio. In terms of writing performance reviews, this person says not really helpful. And a lot of times the gender biases are very clear. And she immediately implicates ChatGPT is relying on stereotypes to choose pronouns. Relying on in the AI sense is still linked to the biases in there. What's most important is what we've been saying. Writing a briefed prompt doesn't really help all that much. Even if you write a more detailed prompt, ChatGPT for performance reviews is not going to know the particular person's successes or failures or points to emphasize, unless maybe you put everything in. And I know that there are times that people have say they've input a job posting and they've given their resume. And I'm thinking that's a huge amount of stuff. And supposedly ChatGPT has written a good cover letter. But I'm seeing less and less of those examples from 3 months ago, probably December, when everybody was experimenting with it and it looked like something useful. So where is this going to go and where does this leave us? Well, Hung Lee, who's a recruiter and has a weekly webinar podcast on recruiting, all sorts of recruiting topics. I actually like to listen to him or go back and watch it if I can't make the Friday morning 9 a.m. ET time. This was in a tweet that he had the other day. Microsoft bought OpenAI a while ago. Google has had its own AI match for ChatGPT. It's not unveiled yet, but people have seen parts of it and have seen early versions. And I can't remember the number I heard yesterday on the podcast as we were driving, and I didn't write it down, but something like Google's invested $300 million in a basically kind of a moonshot type approach to get up and current with where OpenAI is attracting everybody. And even when I don't think I'm looking for it, yesterday morning between 5 a.m. when the paper came and a couple hours later, on the top left, Washington Post business section, this was ChatGPT pressuring big tech to move faster, as I just described. Something came in Twitter. I don't know why, because I don't follow Notion. It was probably promoted, but here it is, free business consultant. And now I can give you 280 prompts to build 10K a month in 90 days and to get this. And he was giving it away free. And then Christopher Penn, who I like a lot and also follow and get his weekly newsletter, has a podcast, and there's a transcript of it on how and in what way he sees it being used effectively. He's more data focused and he does a lot with SEO and marketing. Excellent. And this morning, same thing. I got up and there were two things. There was one thing as I was flipping through TV channels, and then there was or cable channels. There was a headline, and then there were two things on Twitter. There was more on LinkedIn. It's everywhere. We know it's everywhere because we've all been hearing about it, and we're all wondering, what does this really mean? Here's my advice for you all. The first thing you should do is play. Get an account. It's very easy to do. You need to give them an email. It doesn't cost anything but a little bit of playing time to see about how and in what way you might make it useful for you. Play around with people mentioning it on LinkedIn, in chats with your friends. Ask them, what are they reading? Is anything helpful? Because right now it feels like we're in new territory that hasn't been mapped yet. We don't know where we're going. There's not even enough guides out there who've done all the recon to let us know, here's the trail map. There's no trail map. We don't know where the end of the trail map is. At the same time, we do need to remember that, as with any new technology, caution's always the word. But be cautious about not avoiding it, and not to avoid it, but be cautious about, what is it that I really can make this do? When we have a spreadsheet, we know that we can fill the spreadsheet with data, and there's a lot of processing now in Excel, for example, that you can do without a huge amount of separate statistical programs. You can do so much. It will do the work for you if you can think through the question you need to answer. And in fact, a week ago today, I was on my office hours, the Data Wizards office hours, with Ann Emery, who's taught me so much more about data viz and data. And we were talking about how evaluators, researchers' jobs are hard to replace because the thinking around the data is not what data is there, but how do we use it to answer the questions for a specific audience in a way that will provide value to them. Again, the theme throughout this has been write good prompts, know what you need out of it, and try to use what you're getting out of it for moving forward as where is my list? I made 3 things. What it seems the 3 things that it boils down to for ChatGPT that it's good at: giving you an outline or a rough draft, providing you with ideas of things around a topic and ways that you could move forward, or pulling together knowledge with a fair amount of text input from you that helps you take a specific case forward. I don't know that anybody else sees it that way. Those were 3 things that occurred to me as I was preparing this today. And if you have time and interest, Hung Lee, this is his podcast webinar, Brain Food Live on Air. It's in Crowdcast. You can go anytime to his website, which you'll see in the URLs, and watch the part 1, which was January 20th. Hung has a lot of recruiting connections around the globe, and it's been great for me to be able to hear perspectives from the Nordic countries and from people working in Europe and even among and across European countries. But he's going to have a part 2. And the reason I say it's useful is he's hearing from recruiters about what they think their jobs can outsource, if you will, to ChatGPT. Same discussions many people are having. Is my job in jeopardy because of this? Where is it useful to use? And even, I think there was even one discussion on the first one in January about Have you used any of AI-mediated writing to get back to candidates or whatever? I recommend it only because I like Hung and I like the people on there, and it's really good to get a global perspective in what I'm not normally seeing on LinkedIn. And the news is mostly US-centric kinds of information. Lots of things to look at, read, think about. There's so much more out there, and I welcome hearing from you all if you come across anything new. But I wanted to give us a chance to discuss after I'll stop on the pictures that I used. Ron, comments, and then I'll open it up for anybody else that wants to share their experience or ask a question.
Yeah, it's interesting. You and I had a chat the other day as we were getting ready for this about where this might actually end up going. And I think the way you framed it is that this is the beginning. The beginning has been happening for a while, and they've been talking about AI since the 80s. And so this is still the beginning, except that this is now practical. And I think that there's some practical illustrations. And it's like when we look at robots. And so they construct robots and so on, and they look pretty weird and so on. But now they're actually stress testing some of these autonomous robots, and where they try to push them over and all sorts of things, and they have their own ability to stabilize. So this is where I think we are at the beginnings of this. It's now practical, and it's going to go forward, and it's gonna make a difference down the road. And I think there is a threat. Like all technology creates a certain threat, and the challenge would be, and I think you pointed at it, is get familiar with it and try to understand how you can take advantage of it and benefit from it. Interestingly, I tried to sign up, and it immediately detected that my telephone number is a virtual private network generated phone number, and it decided it didn't want that. And I had to have a real phone number, which I don't have. So I'm going to have to wait till I get home to Canada where I can actually provide them with a real phone number. But it's interesting that they were able to, or bothered, I don't quite understand why they bothered, deciding that my virtual phone number hasn't got the same quality as a standard cell phone number. But anyway, I'll have to wait for a while before I'm able to try playing with it, because I think you're right. We need to play with it just to understand, what does this all mean?
You can sign up with an email, at least as far as I still know. No, they want a phone number now.
I gave them my email, and then they wanted my phone number. I threw the phone number in, and then they threw me out on the street.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I signed up a while ago, so I don't have any idea what.
Yeah, could be a change in how they work.
Yeah, definitely. There's actually a sign up out that I opened up a few days ago when someone mentioned it. Might have been on Hung's webinar. There's now an elevated site, because eventually, and I didn't say this, but I'll say it now, eventually there's going to be pricing structures. There's going to be a little bit for free, and they're going to want to sell it. So now they're looking for people who want to do this elevated research, and you have to sign up, and I probably don't need it. But I can't, FOMO, I'll sign up for anything. All right. Anybody else have comments or discussion?
No, just thank you very much for today.
All right. Peter, any comments? Not trying to put you on the spot, just curious.
No, I did want to say some things. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, hear you fine.
Okay, I'm having some internet freezes here. Very interesting. It's great that you took this on as a topic. I've been thinking a lot about it. I wanted to use it and been thinking about using it to help start writing reports. So if it can get me off of the blank page stage, and then I can jump in and say, okay, this goes out, this goes in, and all that. I think it would be super useful for that. I actually went to sign up today, and it kept telling me that it's full and it wouldn't take me to sign up. I don't know if that's an artifact of being outside of the US or being in a non-market IP address or not. So I'll keep trying and see if that goes. But super, super interested in using it for stuff. One use case that I saw on a YouTube video that I thought might be useful for some of us is that it can summarize YouTube videos. And so if you're not able to watch whatever media conference or watch whatever webinar or something, you might be able to put ChatGPT to give you a summary, and then you get the basic points, and then you can decide if you want to watch full time or not. That looked really interesting. And also another one is that I'm not a whiz when it comes to Excel. And so I saw some use cases of it helping you write coding for Excel and getting your things to line up and work correctly. So in that way, it was a lot like a Google search and giving you instructions and steps, but it seemed like it was a little more specific to what you had. So I'm really interested in trying to get using it. I'd like to see if it can help with stuff like GIS, stuff like that. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see.
Two things in terms of your sign up. It's probably better at really odd hours, like when I'm up at 5 a.m. There's not a lot of US demand for it. It may be that it's full up, really. But the other thing, if you're outside the US, is trying through a VPN with if you have a VPN, if you change your location to US. I don't know. No one's ever been bringing that up. But as I said, Hung Lee and his crowd are all on it. So they're signing up people internationally somehow, because they've all the ones that you'll hear if you listen to that January 20th broadcast that he did on part 1. They all knew about it. They all had been using it. So it wasn't like, although they had I think that's when Joel Lalji was on. So he's US based. You just have to keep trying for sure. Like with DALL-E, I finally got on DALL-E well after all the tech people were on it and talking about how great it was. And it wasn't that great for me. Not for the kinds of photos the photos I want are photos that I use in MentorTime, people networking, and you try to find those on stock websites and they don't have them, and Getty does, and I won't pay Getty a lot of money. I thought your use case about the YouTube video was interesting. I think it's Chris Penn, I have to check, who mentioned that you could use it to clean up your transcript to make captions out of it for a video, but I may be remembering wrong. They were talking about using it definitely to clean up language. And I hadn't thought about that, Peter, that it does help solve the blank screen idea, because you're giving a prompt for something you need and it's reacting to you. It's not like you having to go out and search and say, give me a template for a report for UNICEF. So very interesting. Thank you for that. And I'll continue to be just like the work trends all the time. I'm at the minute it was MentorTime was over last week. I got 2 more articles. And they're going to age out by the time we do this again. So I want to keep us up on ChatGPT, but it may be that it's changing so quickly that it's going to be the haves and have-nots for a while. I remember I felt that way when Clubhouse came out a year or so ago, year and a half ago, and you couldn't get on Clubhouse for the longest time. And all these LinkedIn experts were talking about how great it was. And then I got on it and it was, it was good, but it was a time suck. So the short answer is we have yet another thing to learn how to do. But I still think most of what we need to learn how to do is better phrase our needs for the other side of the conversation, which is a lot of what we're talking about here. And Ron's nodding his head. I think we're all learning that we have to be better about explaining how and in what way can we get our needs met that the other person understands how they can help us, or in this case, the other ChatGPT box. Ron.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's simple. Even it goes down to something as simple as a proper Google search. Sometimes we're not really very good at that. It's learning how to do that properly. This ups the game quite a bit by the sounds of it, is in terms of putting in appropriate parameters to get the kind of result you actually need, because garbage in is going to be garbage out. If you ask really bizarre things, it's going to produce a bizarre result.
Any last comments? And I will just check in with the chat box. Any questions on anything else before we close? Okay, Ron, will you close the meeting, please?
Sure. Well, thanks very much for joining us again. And this has been interesting, certainly for me, and it's something I want to pay attention to for all the reasons you mentioned, Sue. So thanks very much. And then we're going to get together again in 2 weeks' time, and we're going to look at mission statement. Oh, sorry, is it 1 week time?
Yeah, I think we're doing it next week.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just concentrating on mine.
It's okay. I'll try to verify that. I didn't look
Okay,
either.
sorry.
Oh yeah, it might be 2. I have to look anyway. Thank
So-
you, Ron. This is available for anybody to use. Hopefully it won't age out really quickly. I will try to get the recording link out tonight or tomorrow morning, along with the PowerPoint file, so that everybody, whether you were here today live or you're watching it later, you can choose the references that you want to look up and see. And Ron and I would love to see more. If you've got things that you think are particularly helpful, such as the professor who said, I'm not going to ban my students from using it. I'm going to have them use it in class with me so we can talk about how they would use it. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.